So, welcome back to French Countryside Live. Once more I'm joined on the sofa by Grahame from our French House Renovation Plus.
Correct.
There you go.
Well done. First go.
Yeah, so Grahame's popped down to see me. Very nice of him. And yeah, it's nice to see you.
Yeah, it's nice to see you. It's great to come up. Yeah, been very welcoming. Fantastic place.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Lovely. So,
It is a week I'm staying, isn't it?
I thought it was two.
Oh right.
Is it
Okay.
not
Yeah.
two?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
okay.
have a look at the prices first.
Okay. All right, so what I wanted to start talking about was obviously your journey to France, but where was you born?
Nottingham.
So you're born in Nottingham.
Nottingham in England, and lived there most of my life. Had a short spell in Yorkshire, but now I live in Derbyshire. So.
So what was it like growing up in Nottingham well, it would have been the 60s, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, born in the 50s and left Nottingham first time when I was 9 years old, so that would have been 66, just after the World Cup.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was fine. You know, lived on a big housing estate.
Was that a big mining area there?
No,
It wasn't?
No, not where we were. There was a mine, probably 10 mile away, but no, it wasn't a mining area at all. The estate I lived on at Clifton at the time was the biggest housing estate in Europe.
Oh, right.
It was absolutely massive, and my parents were one of the first couples to move onto the estate. You know, they're one of the original couples. So so I didn't stay much longer than when I was 9 years old, and just went to a little junior school and whatever, you know, and lived there just like normal kids, you know,
Yeah.
playing a bit of football and going in the fields, and we're very close to the River Trent.
Right.
And Clifton Estate was named after, I think it was Colonel Clifton or somebody like that, and there's a village, Clifton Village, which goes down onto the Trent, and of course that was a big adventure. It was literally about a mile away, it was the other side of the world, you know. And I can always remember that as a kid. We used to go down there at this massive bank. We thought it was Everest, you know, and so we had great fun. Yeah, I had a good childhood there, really.
Yeah.
And then my parents split up, which in them days was unusual, and off we went. You know, went up to live in Yorkshire for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, so you went up to live in Yorkshire. Was that completely different? So,
Yeah.
like, you know, going from a big council estate to...
Definitely, yeah, it was a big shock because it was a place called Borough Bridge, and it was a village in the countryside, and they all spoke funny, you know, and still do.
Yeah.
It was a village, and I was used to sort of living in a big estate next to Nottingham, a big city, and I never really got used to it. But now I crave that. You know, that's one of the reasons I came to France, because it's so rural where you are. So yeah, totally different. Little school. Each classroom had 2 classes in it, you know, where I was used to this big infant school and junior school. Yeah. So yeah, totally different. Yeah.
What did you want to do when you was a kid?
A butcher.
You wanted to be a butcher?
I wanted to be a butcher, yeah. I used to love the smell.
That's unusual.
Well, I was in the village, and I used to love the smell of going into the butcher's shop.
Right.
And in the end, they offered me a job as a little Saturday job. I was 13, you know, you wouldn't be allowed to do it now. Yeah, I was. And worked in this butcher's shop. I must have been there for about a year or more before we came back to Nottingham. And then I found out one of my cousins did the family history. And I come from a family of butchers. Unbelievable.
Must be.
Yeah, it must
in
be in
your
the blood.
Yeah.
And we owned a farm. We had a tannery and butcher shops in Nottingham.
Yeah.
So yeah, it must have been something, you know.
That's funny, isn't it?
Yeah. I never did know that at the time, obviously, you know.
So you left school.
Left school at 15.
Right.
Yeah. The problem I had was that my mum left my dad, and we tended to travel around a lot.
Yeah.
And every time we moved, we obviously went to a new school. By the time I was 14, 15, we moved again, and the school that I had to go to was doing totally different subjects to what I'd been doing. So I was like 2 years behind everybody else. And in them days, you could leave at 15. So there was no way I was ever going to catch up. So I left at 15. And I wanted to be, by that time, I wanted to be a draftsman. I started doing drawing and what have you.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, I really fancy doing this, being a draftsman. And because I didn't have any qualifications, the only way I could get into that was to go on an engineering course. So that's what I did. Went on an engineering course and absolutely hated it.
Yeah.
I'm just not into metal and engineering, wood and stuff like that. I love. So yeah, I left that. And funny enough, my wife, my late wife, she was one of the first draftswomen in England.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she
Okay.
was a draftswoman. Yeah. So yeah, went off and went to another job. I think I ended up then in a shoe shop or something like that.
You've
know.
done a whole bunch of jobs.
Oh yeah. It's life's always been changing.
Give us a list of the jobs that you've done.
Right, let's start. Well, started off in the butcher's shop, like all kids. I had a paper round. Worked in the village when I was in Burridge as well. I had a job in a fruit and veg shop. You know, big bikes with a basket on the front. Yeah. A little kid with a massive bike and a basket. I can remember the times I fell over in the middle of the street and all the vegetables were all over the place. Then I went to work in the shoe industry. I was there for about 5 years. And then I got into the furniture trade.
Right.
And I stayed in that for about 30 years. In different ways, I had my own furniture shops, worked for people like Scotchgard as an agent, selling stuff, selling upholstery. I had my own upholstery manufacturing company with a mate of mine. And basically into the furniture trade. I was in the furniture trade when I first came to France. So, about 30 years doing that. So, yeah.
So what was the, like your first dabbling with France? You know, what was the first sort of ideas that you had to come to France?
When I bought the house first time 15 years ago, I'd never been to France except to Paris, and I'd never really had any ideas about wanting to live in France, buy a house in France. It was something that everybody else did, you know. And then I came into some compensation money, and at the time it was all those New Life in the Sun and The Place in the Sun.
Yeah.
And I watched them, and it sort of set the seed, you know. I thought, well, I could do that, you know, for the price that you could buy a house and renovate it and what have you. And that was in about 2004, 2005. Up until that point, I'd only ever been to Paris. I think I'd never been there once, you know. And so that set the seed and came over. And within a week, I found a house and bought it. And initially, just as a holiday home, stayed in England. And then we moved out here, you know, pretty quick. But until that point, I didn't even... When I bought the house, we were just driving down the road and we saw an estate agent, went in... Long story short, bought the house. I mean, at the airport, didn't even know where we'd bought this house. Didn't know the name of the village. Didn't know anything about it. We just knew we liked this house. You know, we'd bought it. So we had to research it a bit then. So I knew nothing of the area, whatever. Nothing about it at all. So, but yeah, loved it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Then you moved out and set up as a B&B, didn't you?
Yeah. We renovated this house, and then started to do bed and breakfasts from it. Again, something I'd never done, but absolutely loved it. You know, I loved seeing the people. We had people from all over. You tend to think when you've got a gîte or a bed and breakfast that you're going to just be dealing with English people, you know. But you suddenly realise it's from all over Europe.
It's an international
It is,
thing,
yeah. And we had people from Holland and from Germany, from France, you know, obviously in Spain. And so it was really interesting. I absolutely loved it. And we did that for about 18 months.
How did you find getting up every morning to do the breakfast and all that? Was
Loved it.
Yeah?
I used to get in the car. I used to get up about 7 in the morning, get in the car.
That's not too bad, actually.
No.
I was sort of expecting you to say, like, up at 4 o'clock in the morning to, you know...
No way. No, that was one of the house rules.
Yeah.
I locked the door so they couldn't get out of the bedroom. So I used to drive to the next village where they had a really nice boulangerie, pick up all the croissants and bring them back and whatever. And yeah, I did. I really enjoyed it more than I thought I would do. You know,
Right.
You met a lot of interesting people. You know, and we just used to do the B&B. We didn't do any meals in the evening. So once they'd gone out for the day, you know, and where I'm situated in France, we're near to the coast. So and a lot of French people come to that area because of the coast and the climate and everything else. So the day was your own. Then after sort of 10 o'clock, you could do what you wanted. So it was perfect.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I always wonder when, you know, people have got B&Bs, whether they have to... would that have been a time when everything was booked online, or was it a bit before that?
It was early days of the internet.
Yeah.
There was no Facebook, no Instagram, none of those sort of things, no Airbnbs.
It's hard to believe, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, we just
how
take
we
it
ever
for granted.
coped.
Yeah, and we used to advertise it on eBay.
Right.
And we got all our bookings from eBay. You know, that's where everybody went to look for a place for holidays in France. So yeah, everything we did went through eBay.
Yeah.
But I think we probably, in the older of the time I was doing it, had 2 people knock on the door. You know,
Right, just pass it, yeah.
But the rest of the time it came through, bookings and what have you. And we only had the one room, but it was a family room, really nice room. So yeah, it was all off good old eBay.
Did you ever think at the time that you might, get a bigger place, more rooms?
Yeah, I think so. I think actually we did. Yeah, we went to look at another house with the idea of renting that out as well.
Yeah.
But that never came off. Something didn't really happen. But yeah, I would have liked a bigger place, and because I just enjoyed doing this sort of hosting and what have you, making the breakfasts and all that. So yeah, we did. We sort of expanding, but then everything went wrong, and we ended up coming back to England.
Yeah. So you came back to England, and you was a driving instructor as well, weren't you?
Yeah, I came back to England initially. I went back into the furniture trade, which
Right.
I promised myself I'd never do.
Yeah.
I'd had 30 years of it, I'd had enough, but I needed to earn a living.
Yeah, of course.
And I had a lot of friends and in the furniture trade, and a couple of friends who had a big shop in Leicester offered me a job running the place for them. And I did that for about a year, and then I went back out on the road for a short period of time and just absolutely hated it.
Right.
I thought I've had enough of this. So I thought, what else can I do? Well, I've been driving all my life.
Did you hate the actual teaching, or was it just the state
No,
of the roads
not
and
the teaching, just going back on the road as a rep.
Yeah. I
for
see.
this
Sorry.
company.
Yeah.
I went back on the road
gotcha,
for a company I'd worked for before I'd been to France. So I did that for about a year, but that had gone. And been on the motorway all the time, and it's not like driving here.
No. It's
the,
not.
the roads, it's just full of maniacs. So I thought, what else can I do? And I thought, well, I can drive. So I thought I'd become a driving instructor.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
And then so I did the training, which took about 9 months, something like that. I had to take 3 exams, and I did that for about 10 years. Enjoyed it for the first year. The rest of the time I didn't enjoy it very much, Yeah, it was all right, but things happened in my life, and I just didn't want to do it anymore, you know. So well, best not say too much. Why?
So just talk me through the old the present property that you've got now,
right?
That we've all seen and really enjoyed the videos, watching you
5 or somewhere.
refurbish it, and So, what was the first contact that you had with that house?
Right. So where are we now? In 2019, I sold a house in England, and I moved in with my partner, which is her house. And coming back I'd never wanted to come back to England, really, from selling the house in France, but the situation meant I had to. And it was always at the back of my mind, I wanted to go back. So when I'd sold this property, I thought, what shall I do? And I could have bought another house in England from the money I made, but it would have just been a little terrace house, and I'd had to rent it out. And the rental market in the UK is a pain, so I thought, well, I don't want to do that. So I thought, why not go back to France, see what I can find? Now, when I initially bought that house, you could buy houses for 10, 20, 30,000 pounds. And I thought, well, you're not going to be able to get anything like that. And you tend to go back to what you know and where you know and whatever. And I'm in a place called the Vendée. And so first thing I did, I went on to see if the estate agent who I had initially bought my house from was still there, and they were. And I went on there, looked on their website, because they didn't have a website originally. And the first house I saw was the house I ended up buying. And so I rang the estate agents up. The people who were there when I first bought my first house were still there. And the first thing they said to me was, do not buy this house. You know, it needs too much work. It needs this, it needs that. So I looked at loads of others, but I kept going back. There was something about this house, and it was in the village one down from where I'd lived before. So I actually knew the area. And so I arranged to come over and buy it, and made an offer straight away, and that was accepted. And then sort of arranged, once everything had gone through, to come over and start renovating. But it was just like an itch I had to scratch. I had to come back, This time, though, it is just solely as a holiday home. At the moment, we don't have any intention of moving out here, and we've also got the holiday let, the bit everyone's seen me renovating. It's going to be a holiday let. So I just love the house, and I love the village. It's in a nice area of France. It's the second hottest place in France, so the weather's great in the summer. And as you get older, you like a bit of warmth, don't you?
Definitely. That's why we're moving down to
exactly. You're moving near to me, aren't you?
Yeah.
So, it was just really the perfect house for me. I looked at a few others. I got it for a good price, you know, which was unbelievable. It needed, it's 200 years old, and no one's, I think, lived in it for about 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Actually physically lived in it. They've owned it, but not lived in it, and, you know, it needed a lot of work.
So it was interesting what you said about, I think it's one of your subscribers had family living in that village or something.
Yeah, unbelievable. That I was always hoping someone would come onto the site and make a comment, and one day it happened. You know, this guy came on and said, "My house is right in the centre of the village. We're across the road from the mayor's office. We're 2 doors down from the restaurant, and we're next to the church. And as you know, in France, the church is like the centre of the village, isn't it? And we're next door to this church." And this guy came on and said, "Oh, I'm so interested." He lives in Paris, French guy. And he said, "I live in Paris, but my mum and my auntie were born near enough in the village. One lived in the house on the other side of the church.
Right.
And his mum lived just outside in L'Atelier. And now L'Atelier and Vouet, where I live, used to be one village. And then they separated for, I don't know why. And so he said, "I'll try and find out some information for you." And he's come up with so much, you know, interesting information, which I'm going to put on one of my videos.
Yeah.
And you know, he's been in touch with genealogists, and the period of time I'm really interested in is in the war.
Right.
What happened in the war? Because the Germans were in the Vendée and all around there, you know, and down at La Rochelle, just down the road.
The occupation.
Yeah, they had the submarine bases there, which is still there and everything. So I'm really interested in that period of time, and that just seems a bit of a blank area at the moment.
Yeah. So do you think maybe that the house was empty during that time?
I don't think so. No, I don't think it was at that period of time, but they probably took over the house. I don't know.
Is it the biggest house in the village then? Because that would normally be the...
Yeah, it's normally what they do. No, there are one or two bigger ones, but it's certainly not one of the smallest ones, you know. It's like the main house, and then at the back there's the gîte area as well, which is really odd in France, the way the house is designed. You don't get many like that. But I would be very surprised if they didn't have people staying in the house, because part of the history that I found out going back to the 1800s and whatever was that it was run as a hotel at some point.
Oh, really? Okay.
So probably the Germans saw the opportunity there to go, you know, we can put a few of our soldiers in there or whatever. I don't know. I just don't know, and that's what I'm trying to find out about it.
I remember going to when we first started looking at properties in France, 2014. We stayed in this B&B. It was this big old manor house run by this woman and her aged husband, and we had the whole top floor basically.
Right.
And I guess there would have been the servants' quarters, and I found a bit up in the top corner by the ceiling hadn't been wallpapered. It was only about so big.
Yeah.
And there was some handwriting in pencil on the wall.
Yeah.
And it basically said the date, and it was something like 13th of June 1945.
Okay.
The Americans are just outside the village. The Germans have gone. Vive la France.
Was there Vive la France?
Yeah, Vive la France. And it was history there, right in front of me.
Fantastic. Yeah. And one of the craziest things I found, when I was up in the bedroom in the gîte, I found this little silk purse.
Right.
And it was hidden in between.
Treasure, isn't it? Yeah. It's proper treasure, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it was hidden between the straw, because it's like a thatched roof, and then it's got tiles on top, and one of the old oak beams. Yeah. I was just cleaning something, I just had to look up, and it caught my eye, you know, so I pulled it down. And inside was all old coins and buttons, and there was even a gambling chip in there, but it was an old one, you know. So I made a few inquiries about what it could be, and it's something that the French, I don't know if they still do it, but it was like a good luck charm.
Okay.
And they would hide it in the house.
Yeah.
So I've moved it out, and but I'll put it back once the house is, you know, it feels like that's where it should be, sort of thing. You know? So, I mean, a lot of these houses do have, you know, a lot of history, and it's, with my house being next door to the church, there's been a church there apparently from Viking days.
Right.
And when we were digging out the septic tank, as people will have seen when we were putting that in, we found a wall 2.5 meters down, just this wall.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
And a couple of days later, a guy came and he stopped and came to talk to us, spoke perfect English, and he belonged to the local history group. And he said, "Oh, have you found anything when he was digging your septic tank?" And we told him. He said, "Oh, he said that's solved something." You know, he said we've been wanting to know about that for a long time.
Yeah.
And apparently, it's where from the church there was a tunnel, and they used to go and hide in there. And I just wondered, did they do that in the war as well? You know, and what have you. So
Essentially, yeah.
yeah, but we didn't find the tunnel, but we found the room, and it's now there's a massive plum tree on top of it, so we can't sort of dig down and find out what's down there. Could be treasure, bottles of wine.
Who knows?
Yeah, Van Goghs, or you know what's there.
You never know your luck.
Yeah, you can dream, can't you?
So looking forward, have you set yourself a time scale to be open, or have you?
Yeah, my lifetime.
Yeah, okay. That'll do.
Yeah, well, I've still got all my marbles if possible, yeah. The gîte, we expect to be finished by Easter time.
Right.
And then we're going to start moving into the main house. And the main house is really going to be for our use.
Right.
So there's no rush on that. But the house will be easier to sort out than the gîte was. We've basically invented the gîte.
Yeah.
It wasn't that before, you know. So the house, the rooms are already there. Everything's in place. We've just got to bring it up to date and what have you. So I would think 18 months. Max. I think the house will be as good as done.
For the house as well.
Yeah,
and everything,
yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, the gîte is as good as done.
Yeah.
You know, it's all these little jobs you have to finish off, and the boring little bits and what have you. The biggest job we've got to do is the roof, the ceiling in the bedroom, and we've got a plasterboard and insulate all that. And then we've got the garden to sort out, which is what my partner, there's 4 of us coming over at Easter, and one of them's into all that, so they're going to be concentrating on that hopefully. Yeah. And then we're getting close. I mean, we have already got bookings. We've got somebody coming, I think it's August time.
Yeah.
So we better be ready.
This August?
Yeah. Well,
Not next August?
No, it's supposed to be 2 Augusts ago.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
What it was, it's a couple with a daughter, and she's a nurse.
Right.
And I put a thing out where you could nominate somebody in essential workers.
All right, yeah.
And it was a random draw like you did.
Oh, okay.
And they won a week's holiday free of charge.
Fantastic.
So and they've just had to keep cancelling and cancelling.
Right.
You know, I just said, just keep moving it forward.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I was only thinking about them yesterday. I need to get in touch and now start getting some dates.
Yeah. Get it organised.
Yeah. Because we're probably going to have them queuing down the road to stop. You know.
Well, yeah, they are. Yeah.
Well, they've already put parking spots.
Have you got yourself a big stick to beat them off with?
Yeah. Yeah. So now looking forward to it. You know, I mean, we've got somebody lined up to look after the place for us, and when we've got guests staying and whatever. So it's a beautiful place. You know, you're 30 minutes from the beach. You're 30 minutes just over from La Rochelle, Ile de Ré, and all that. You know, a lot of history there.
I just wonder when it's all done, you know, and the house is all done and furnished and perfect.
Yeah.
And you're sitting in your house in Derbyshire.
Yeah.
On a rainy day and it's freezing cold.
Yeah, that's summer. Yeah.
How long it's going to take before you say to your partner, you know what, shall we just go?
Yeah, I think we had that conversation about a year ago.
Right, yeah.
But we've got commitments. You know, my partner still works, and we've got grandchildren and everything else. It all depends what happens, because things change, don't they, in your life? And my partner still has a mortgage and what have you, but things change. And obviously the situation with Brexit doesn't make it that easy to come and live out here.
It doesn't, no.
We were both retired.
We were very lucky with that.
Yeah, your timing was pretty good, wasn't it? So
more luck than judgment there.
Yeah, but that's the way it goes sometimes, isn't it? You know. I could actually see us moving out, but I don't think it'd be for a while, you know, and everything would have to be right.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you know, we're a couple of hours, aren't we, from home in
true.
England, you know? We're
fine,
if we could leave our house, say, at 10 o'clock in the morning in France, and could be back home probably in Derbyshire with a flight by 2 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that, you know. So it's all doable, but everything just has to be right at the time. But I mean, I would come back, and not a problem. But it's easy for me to say I'm retired and I just work in my shed, you know, sad man in a shed sort of thing.
Well, I mean, we've seen in the plus bit of the of your channel, you know, with all your wood turning and it's fabulous stuff, you know. You're very, very talented.
Here's another fiver. It's cost me a fortune. This is cut.
So
it's very kind of you. Thank you.
Well, you know, it's the truth. To wrap up, you're happy with the way things are turning out.
Overall.
And
I think the biggest problem I've had is that when I was here 15 years ago, I was 15 years younger.
Right.
And, you know, 15 years is a long time, isn't it, at our age? And,
Yeah, it is.
well,
yeah.
my age.
Yeah.
You're a lot older than me.
Yeah,
And,
clearly.
and then you come and start doing it again, and it's a lot harder. It's a lot, just doing the general things, and you get tired quicker. Or
I just think getting up from off your knees is the hardest thing.
You have to plan it.
Yeah,
It has to be a plan. You know, you get down there. That's the last thing you want to do. Get
That's
down
it.
there. So yeah, it is. And but it's just as enjoyable, And I mean, in them days there was no YouTube, was there? And that's a great thing about it. This time is this YouTube. And I started my channel off. I thought I'd be lucky if I get 100 or 200 people.
Yeah.
And
No, it's gone mad, isn't it?
It's gone mad, and it just shows the power of the internet. I mean, I've got people who subscribe to me, and like you probably have, in all parts of the world.
Yeah.
And Papua New Guinea, or and you think, who over there wants to watch some 64-year-old guy renovating a French house? But they do, It's
What's interesting, I think I told you yesterday that we was watching Jane at Not Quite a
Chateau, yeah.
and it occurred to me, and I wrote a comment on a video that the mainstream media and the BBC, for example, would spend £20 million making a period costume drama.
Yeah.
For 45 minutes. Yeah, I've just sat and watched two people mess about in a bathroom for 40 minutes, and I've really enjoyed
And
it.
you've been entertained.
I've been entertained. I've really enjoyed it, and it's cost nothing.
Yeah, and I wonder why that is. Is it because it's more true life? Is it more real? And I think a lot of my viewers, probably like yours, are American.
Yeah.
And probably never been to France.
Yeah.
And they don't have the period houses like we have. 200-year-old houses to them is ancient, really, isn't it, compared to what they have there? And it's just this thrill of seeing somebody, doing this sort of work, and it's more real. And at the end of the day, we are just your average guys, aren't we?
Yeah,
And we're giving it a go. And people say, "Oh, you live in the dream." Well, yeah, it can be a nightmare at times, but it is great fun, So, but it just shows the power of the internet. I mean,
It does.
yeah, Australia everywhere. You get people viewing, and most of them, pretty nice. You get the odd one, don't you?
I mean, the vast majority. I think I've had probably 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Bit iffy comments, but I think I
You
can
expect
cope.
it. Yeah, I think I can cope. Yeah, you can ignore them, can't you? Basically, But it's surprising as well how many people are over here, doing this. And the French are not known really, are they, for looking after old houses? They
It's a completely different culture, isn't it? Houses, certainly in the UK, a house is seen as an investment first, and then somewhere to live. Whereas here, people buy a house and live in it, and that's it.
Yeah, they do, and there's not the attachment, I don't think,
No,
either, is there? I think in England we feel like we have to have a house, we have to buy a house, and a lot of other European countries, they don't, do they? I mean,
different culture.
places like Denmark and whatever, it's all rental, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean that comes from the Thatcher years, doesn't it?
Yeah. She made it more accessible, didn't she? In some ways, But we all want to own a house, and I think we are a nation as well as doing DIY and looking after places, and this is perfect for us, isn't it?
Of course,
I can remember when I first came here, there was hardly any DIY stores. Brico depots didn't exist when I came here, so it's a different way, but it's fantastic. I think the French people are great, and they love the fact that we've come over and done this to some of their houses. So.
All right. So we'll wrap it up there.
Okay.
Lovely. Like I say, thanks for coming. It's been
thanks for
lovely to have
inviting me. Yeah.
And all the usual stuff. Like the video if you would, thumbs up. Share it on social media. Press the notification bell. Maybe think about subscribing if you haven't already. And certainly, I can't believe that you'll be watching this and you haven't been to Grahame's channel.
Yeah.
But if you haven't, then once you finish watching all mine,
yeah, of course,
immediately go over to Grahame's channel, which is French House Renovation Plus.
Our French House
Renovation Plus.
Yeah.
So do that. So all that's left to say is mine. There you go.
Yep.
And I'll see you soon.
Cheers. Yep.